Hey there, I'm Dr. Marnie Turville, the Stop Kidding Yourself doctor and the founder and chief medical visionary at Outside the Pillbox in Evanston, Illinois, where I offer VIP wellness programs using a functional medicine model. If you're not familiar with functional medicine, it's the science and art of getting your body back to working the way it's supposed to work so that you can do the things you want to do and make the difference you're meant to make in the world. I work with high achieving individuals of all ages, people who want and need to stay on top of their game because of the demands of their career, their school, their sport, their family, or their leisure activities. People who aren't willing to have their happiness and success jeopardized by illness, who are ready to find out what's really causing their symptoms or their illness, and who are willing to make time and take the steps to restore their health and prevent future health issues. If you're watching this video, you're probably either considering investing in yourself with one of my VIP wellness programs, or you've just enrolled and are curious to find out what you're in for. I'm glad you're here, and I'm going to present a case study for you so you can see how all of my VIP wellness programs get started. In case you're not familiar with my background, let me take just a minute to talk about that. I started my medical career in conventional pediatrics, and I absolutely loved what I did. And like most functional medicine physicians, I ended up having a personal health crisis. My health was, I thought, very good, although I had a few minor things that were very well controlled with prescription medication. And then suddenly overnight, I lost my health and experienced 10 years of really debilitating chronic illness when my children were very young. I searched and searched for answers within the conventional medical model that I knew, but I couldn't find any. And I finally started to find some answers outside of conventional medicine. And from there, I just kept learning more and more about how I could restore my health, because to me, restoring my health was the only option. I was not willing to live with chronic illness. So I didn't even know at the time that I was learning functional medicine. I found that out after I already knew a lot of what I use now. But that's what I was doing. And my story is very similar to most functional medicine physicians. I think the vast majority of us started in some conventional medical model, either as MDs, which is what I am, or chiropractors or naturopathic physicians, which is really not a conventional medical model. It's more of a functional medical model. But you'll find that most physicians who practice functional medicine got there because the conventional medical model failed them personally or a close family member. And functional medicine is what allowed them to really fully restore their health. And nothing makes you a believer more than that. So we all, as functional medicine practitioners, and I certainly am no exception, have a real passion for helping people be healthy. And one of the things that makes me really sad is that I don't know a single doctor in the conventional medical model or any other model that went into medicine to manage illness. Every doctor I know went into medicine because they wanted to help people. They're very caring, very intelligent people. And we didn't know, and unfortunately most conventional doctors still don't know, or if they know, they feel trapped, that the conventional medical model isn't designed to restore health. It really is a disease management system. It's fantastic for handling acute illness, injuries, and surgical emergencies, but it really doesn't have the tools to help people restore health when chronic illness has become a problem, or just chronic symptoms, or even the tools to really help people know what they individually need to do to maintain excellent health into their later years. And functional medicine does that beautifully. It really has all the tools to allow us to restore health and know what health risks are potentially around the corner so that we can develop health habits that will keep us independent and fully active all throughout our lives. So that's why I love it so much. And I'm so glad that you're either here considering or that you've already jumped in and made a commitment to your health. There's nothing I love more than helping people to regain control of their health and feel confident that they know how to stay healthy for the rest of their lives. So when you decide to enroll in one of my VIP wellness programs, we always start by going on a treasure hunt. We're really digging for gold. We're looking for the root causes of your mystery symptoms and chronic health issues. And it doesn't matter if these are things that you've had for a few months, a few years, or multiple decades. Functional medicine can handle all of that. Once we find your root causes, then we design a personalized protocol to begin to restore your health. The protocol is not designed to manage symptoms or cover them up. It is aimed at getting rid of the symptoms by fixing the things that caused them in the first place. And the functional medicine protocols typically involve lifestyle changes, nutritional supplements, detoxification, and natural therapies. Occasionally we use a pharmaceutical therapy, but not very often. And one of the benefits of working with someone like me who's trained in both conventional and functional medicine is that I really understand the conventional medical model. I know when pharmaceuticals are necessary. I know when to refer you to somebody in that model in order for you to get the complete set of healthcare you need. So that's the science part of functional medicine. The art part of functional medicine is the partnership between you and me. It's the access you have to the support you need whenever you need it. And it's my knowledge and skill in helping you make the program work in your busy life without you feeling deprived or overwhelmed. That's really my favorite part, because we really get into, how do you change your habits and how do you help your mind be one of your biggest allies. For so many of us, the mind is one of our worst enemies because we weren't taught how to use it properly. So depending on the program you're in, we'll do a little bit of work with the mind or a lot of work with the mind. So one of the beautiful things about functional medicine is that it's very systematized and very personalized at the same time. So it doesn't matter if you're seeking help for chronic hives, like the young lady in the case study I'm about to share, or for digestive issues, or headaches, or fatigue, or brain fog, or arthritis, or acne, or autoimmune thyroid illness, or depression, or diabetes, or Parkinson's, or any other mystery symptom or chronic illness you can think of. The functional medicine model handles them all the same way because they all have the same root causes that just manifest differently in different people based on your genetics and based on your life exposures and events. So no matter what the health challenge you're seeking help for, we start in the same place with the low-hanging fruit. We start with gathering information about your life. We find all the pieces of your individual health puzzle so we can understand what happened that got you to arrive at the health situation you're experiencing currently. And then we do the 4 tests that I've found to consistently reveal important, foundational, easily actionable root causes in just about everyone in the 21st century. And once you take those test results and start implementing your personalized protocol based on those test results, you will begin to feel better quickly. So let's dive into the case study. This is a case study of a young lady I started working with very recently. It's designed to show you what the beginning of most of my programs look like. This is a 20-year-old college student who's about to start her junior year. She is studying pre-med to become a doctor. She just got her EMT certification so that she can work on an ambulance. And she was a varsity athlete in high school. She's also a very social, friendly, outgoing young lady who looks like she's the picture of health. But as you'll see, she's suffering with some really difficult symptoms. Now she's used to them, so they don't seem that difficult to her, but they are quite bothersome. And as you'll see, as we get through her tests, there's a lot going on underneath the surface with her. And it's really great that she found me and has this information to work with now, because now she's got the opportunity to really regain control of her health before it crashes the way mine did, or the way so many people's do when they don't know that they're on the edge of a cliff. So she came to me because she started experiencing chronic hives on her legs in the fall of her freshman year, so about 2 years ago. And she also at that time, the headaches that she'd had occasionally from middle school through high school turned into full-blown migraines. And they weren't terribly frequent, but when they happened, they were really debilitating for her. So we started by finding out the pieces of her health puzzle. This was done by us talking, as well as by her filling out functional medicine analysis, which I'm going to show you in a minute. She suffered from eczema, which is very inflamed, irritated patches of skin from infancy into at least elementary school. And although the eczema got better, she's continued to have very dry skin for all of her life. She started experiencing exercise-induced asthma beginning in middle school, and uses an inhaler for that. Luckily, she only needs the inhaler as needed. She's not on a daily inhaler. She found out she was gluten intolerant in middle school, and taking gluten out of her diet made a big difference. She's now about 95% gluten-free because she's a college student, and it's hard to avoid gluten in a college situation, and she sometimes cheats a little bit, and that's not the end of the world. But getting off of gluten drastically improved her headaches and just a general, feeling crappy thing that she was experiencing. Another part that's really interesting about her is she had a lot of cavities growing up as a kid, and she's had very severe gum disease, gingivitis. In fact, so severe that at age 19 and 20, she's already required 2 graft surgeries for gum recession. That's a really big deal because that puts the jeopardy of her teeth and the bony structure of her mouth at risk. So this is the outcome of her functional medicine analysis, which is part of the Living Matrix electronic health record that I use in my practice. It's a functional medicine electronic medical record that was designed in partnership with the Institute for Functional Medicine. It's got some really robust features that will help both you and me. So the first part is it gives you a medical symptom questionnaire. You can see in this upper corner, her score was 50. We really want you to have a score under 10 to indicate that you're in robust, good health. 50 is not super high. You can see there's that little orange arc. Some people go way up and almost becomes a circle when they're super symptomatic. But the beautiful part about this is it's a measurement of your current symptoms just for the last month. And we can repeat that particular questionnaire at 1 to 2 month intervals throughout your program, and you'll be able to actually see the progress and see that score go down as you institute your protocol and your body has more time to heal. It's pretty cool. The next part in the middle is this blue timeline, which is a really helpful feature. You see all the little white lines are marking medical events in her life. And if you come down to the bottom, we have it expanded here. So all the white lines at the top correspond to these blue circles at the bottom. And I'm guessing you, depending on your screen, you may or may not be able to read what this says, but it says she had eczema from infancy through about age 14. So that's a little beyond elementary school, but nevertheless. They did some renovations in the home when she was 2. That means she got exposed to some chemicals and dust and that kind of thing. She's had extremely dry skin since she was about 6 years old and onwards. When there's an arrow coming out of the circle, it means it's a problem that is continuing today. When the problem is flanked by circles on both ends, like her eczema, it means it resolved. And the numbers inside the circles are the age that you were when it happened. So from age 11 to 13, she had some mold exposure in their home because of a flood. They had that professionally remediated, and they verified that the mold was all gone, which was great. But look at this, her exercise-induced asthma began at the same age as the mold exposure, which is interesting, and her headaches started more or less within that period. And down here is where she was diagnosed with her gluten intolerance. By history, it actually went back further into her early preschool days at least. Then she hasn't had any new health things until college, where you see her first gum recession, the hives that started 2 years ago, the migraines that started 2 years ago, and her second gum recession surgery this summer. So this is a really useful tool that we can add to. It's going to give you a beautiful set of documents that will, have your entire medical history uh, laid out beautifully, your family history, all of that for your own records, and also to make it much easier for you, for any other healthcare providers you may need to utilize in the future. Now, the first lab that we do, I don't actually have the printouts of, but it's routine blood work. It's a lot of things that your conventional doctor would also do. We look at your vitamin D level in the blood, and hers was quite low, which is pretty much the norm for anybody here in the Midwest because we have so little sun, but it's also the norm even now for people in the southern and southwest US because we spend so much time inside. And vitamin D is a really critical nutrient for just about every system in the body. So we always want to get that vitamin D up to a really healthy level. We also look at, your complete blood count, your kidney and liver function tests, and I do a full thyroid panel. In conventional medicine, we typically would look just at the thyroid stimulating hormone. That really doesn't give a full picture because your thyroid stimulating hormone can be normal even when you've got the beginnings of thyroid problems, especially autoimmune thyroid illness. So by doing the full panel, we see where you are with that, because autoimmune thyroid and autoimmune anything can brew underneath the surface for years, sometimes even up to 2 decades before it mushrooms out of control, but it's doing damage all that time. And by finding it earlier, we can take measures to halt that process so that you don't end up with a damaged thyroid and needing thyroid medication. So her labs were all normal except for that vitamin D level, which was really important to discover. The next test we do is the KBMO FIT test, which is FIT stands for Food Inflammation Test. It tests your primary and secondary immune reactions to 132 common foods. By testing the primary and secondary, it has much fewer false positives than conventional tests, and it picks up more of your food sensitivities. It's done with a simple finger prick at home when you just put a little blood spot onto a blotter paper and you send it in. So you can see here, this is her summary page, and it shows the moderate, severe, and really critical food reactions that she has. So she has really severe reactions to millet and corn, moderate to casein, which is a protein in milk, cow's milk, whole wheat, and swordfish, and milder to rice, which frequently cross-reacts with gluten, even though there's not gluten in it. And here's her gluten and the raspberry. Now, she is on a mostly gluten-free diet, so even though she's avoiding that, she's still got high sensitivity to it, which is important to know. So this is a list of foods that she really needs to take out of her diet in order to let her immune system calm down, reduce inflammation, and have her body get a chance to heal. The second page of this test is here, and this shows you all 132 foods that were tested. The important part of the red, orange, and yellow bars, because those show the severe, high, and moderate reactions. The light green bars are really mild reactions, so those are ones that I usually will have people reduce how often they eat those foods, rotate that food into their diet and eat it maybe once every 4 days or so, so that those don't become more serious reactions. And then all the dark green ones are foods that are safe for you to eat. At least now you're not having any reaction to them. So this really helps, because healthy foods can be poison to you as an individual if your immune system is recognizing that particular food as a foreign invader and attacking every time you eat it. And this is the best way to find out exactly which foods. You see, some of hers were unusual. We're used to, in functional medicine at least, not so much in conventional medicine, where they don't really acknowledge the role of food sensitivities in chronic illness, but it is huge and really life-changing for so many people to get these reactive foods out of their diet. It was huge for me, for sure. we know that very often gluten and dairy are foods that people are sensitive to. And sometimes people will say, well, those are common. I'll take those out of my diet. We'll see what happens. And maybe they get lucky and they feel better, or maybe they don't. But if, say, you were like this young lady and you had a huge reaction to corn and you took out dairy and gluten, which you were also sensitive to, but you were still eating corn regularly, you might not see any difference. And it would be easy to mistakenly conclude that foods are not part of your problem, when foods are really a big part of your problem, but you were still eating one unknowingly that was contributing to the problem. I like to think of it as pouring lighter fluid on a fire, because that's what these foods do, is they create inflammation, which is fire within your body. So this allows you to know exactly which foods to eat and not eat without any guesswork, which is tremendously a tremendous stress reliever, really, to know what to eat. All right, the next test that I do is the SpectraCell cardiometabolic and micronutrient test. And there's a lot of data here. I'm not going to go into the specifics. I'm just going to show you what we gleaned in this case and what we generally can glean and what it means. So there are 3 pages for this test. The first one here is her omega check, which is looking at the levels of the omega-3 fatty acids. EPA is really important as an anti-inflammatory molecule in the body, and DHA is critically important for brain health. So we see right away her total omegas are flagged as red, which is high risk because they're low. And that's super important. This is actually why her skin is so darn dry. And it probably relates to her headaches rather substantially. It probably relates to her hives and her asthma as well, because she's not able to combat the inflammation brought about by her food sensitivities with her EPA being so low. And this print may be too small for you to see, but this test is a really good example of a general issue with tests that it's important for people to understand. The column here that says reference range, optimal range, you really need to understand this. The reference range on most tests is a population norm, meaning that 2 standard deviations from the mean of the population fall within that range. So that's from about the 10th percentile to the 90th percentile of people, all but 20% of the sickest people, but it includes a lot of people who are not healthy. So it's not necessarily a healthy range. And one of the things that I so appreciate about the pioneers of functional medicine is that they have rigorously looked and found the optimal or healthy range for most test values. So that's the range that if you only tested a really truly healthy population, their lab values would fall in. So I'm always aiming to get people into the healthy optimal range for a test, because just falling in the reference range or normal range may not mean you're healthy at all. You know, a good example is weight. So, you know, the range of weight for women is, or let's say 2 standard deviations, is probably somewhere from 110 to 200 pounds. But we all know that if you're 5'3", 200 pounds is not a healthy weight for you. We also all know that if you're 5'10", 110 pounds is not a healthy weight for you. So there's a healthy range. Weight, of course, the healthy range is dependent on your height, but you get the idea. So she needs to really boost her omega-3s up to help her skin, her brain, and her inflammatory health issues. The second page here is the cardiovascular, which means heart attack and stroke, and diabetes risk factors. Now, you don't think of a 20-year-old of being that much at risk, and luckily she isn't, but sometimes they are. We're seeing that more and more as younger kids get sicker and sicker with what used to be purely adult illnesses. But I'll draw your attention here to 2 main things. One is her homocysteine, which is high. Now, this reports that less than 11 is the reference range, and this is a great example. The healthy range is less than 8. So she's higher than it looks based on the reference range given here. Homocysteine is important because it shows that you probably are low in a number of important nutrients that are involved in the detoxification process in the liver, specifically in being able to methylate, but we don't need to get into that now. And elevated homocysteine, so it means you're not detoxifying well, which means that toxic chemicals from our environment are able to cause more harm to you than they would be if you could detoxify well. Elevated homocysteine is also an indicator of increased risk for heart attack and strokes. So we want to work to make sure that that level comes down for her. Here's another issue. This is her total cholesterol here, and you see it's marked green, which you would think is great, but it's 114, which is actually critically seriously low. Cholesterol, we get so concerned with it being too high because of all the hype about that being involved in cardiovascular disease, and it is involved in cardiovascular disease, but it's actually not the cholesterol that's the problem, it's the inflammation that allows the cholesterol to do the damage. So conventional medicine has been focused on cholesterol. They're not getting very good results. Inflammation is what you need to focus on to reduce cardiovascular risk. So the problem with low cholesterol, though, is that cholesterol is the building block for the cell membrane of every cell in your body, for every neuron or brain cell in your brain. And it's the raw material for making some of the most critical hormones in the body, for making cortisol, the stress hormone, for making all the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, for making the hormone that regulates sodium and potassium balance in the kidneys, and for making vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, not a vitamin, but go figure. So we need to bring her cholesterol up. This is a really important thing that we found that ties in with the symptoms she's having. The last page here is her micronutrient results. And think of micronutrients as the raw materials in a factory. You need a full stock room of all the raw materials for the products you're making if you're going to make those products at high quality in the quotas that you need to make them in. So on this test, results are categorized as deficient, which is red dots in the gray zone, or as borderline, which is black dots in the yellow zone, or as normal, which is white dots in the green zone. We're really looking to have your white dots be in the middle of the green zone, where my cursor's going down now. That's healthy. When you have a red dot, or deficient, functionally deficient in a nutrient, it's literally like, let's say you're a car manufacturing factory. It's like you're manufacturing cars without enough windshields and brake pads. I'm going to use two examples because she's got two deficient things to make the cars that you're making, but yet you're continuing to make them and put those cars out for sale. So some of the cars don't have brake pads or windshields, and that's really not going to work, right? The borderline black dot results mean that you're very close to not having enough of those, and a small or large stressor in your life could use up your reserve and make you deficient. And as soon as you're deficient, in fact, sometimes even as soon as you're borderline, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that just doesn't work within the body. Something has to give, something does give, and that is when you start noticing symptoms. And you get a lot of symptoms, or they start getting going, and that's when you get a diagnosis and end up having a chronic illness. So she actually has more micronutrient issues than average. This is really a problematic result. So in case you can't read it, the top group is B vitamins. The next group is amino acids and their metabolites, plus oleic acid, which is a fatty acid that is a cell membrane component. You need that to have healthy cell membranes so that all the other micronutrients can get into the cells where they work. So this is actually, I didn't say this at the beginning, this test result is the levels of these micronutrients inside your cells, not in your bloodstream, which is where conventional medicine measures them, if they measure them at all. But you can have normal levels in the bloodstream and be functionally deficient in the cells. And it's in the cells where it matters, because in the cells are where all these micronutrients are used to run your body, to make all the materials you need, to make energy, to make proteins, to make fats, to do everything that you need to stay healthy and alive. This group is the other vitamins and minerals. Then we've got carbohydrate metabolism, and here we've got antioxidants, which protect you from damage due to toxins in the environment. So we've got a lot to work with here. And if you remember her elevated homocysteine from the other page, some of the top items that need to be in good shape for homocysteine to be normal are these B vitamins. And you see that every single one of her B vitamins is either borderline or just like leaning over the cliff from normal to borderline. So that helps us, this helps us know exactly which supplements we need. Again, we're not guessing. We know exactly what you need. We know when you're deficient in borderline that you need them in larger doses than typical in order to get those levels built back up to normal. And this is something that simply cannot be done with food. A lot of people say, well, shouldn't we be able to get all our nutrients from food? And yes, in the distant past, that was possible. But because of the excess demands on our body, because of our increasingly toxic and stressful and high-paced world, and because of the decreased nutritional value of our food because of chemical farming methods and processed food, most people, even healthy people, have trouble meeting their daily nutrient requirements from healthy, high-nutrient organic food, much less junk food or non-organic food that's got chemicals in it. So we do need to use nutrient supplements in order to get low nutrient levels up to normal, and then we'll see. You know, obviously I don't want you taking stuff you don't need, but the process of this is we have you on the supplements for a while, we repeat the tests, see where we are, and we adjust your supplements that way. And once we've done the test a few times, we should be able to get you into the normal range on most things, and we'll know what your maintenance levels are for your current lifestyle. So that's really fantastic information because that's what's going to keep you healthy going forward. All right, next test is the GI map, which is a stool test looking for hidden infections in the gut, as well as looking at the health of your digestion and the lining of your intestinal tract. So I skipped the first page on her test because the results were all normal there. But this is the conventional medical model and the functional medical model until fairly recently, when this test became available. We were reliant upon stool cultures, which are notoriously poor at picking up even active intestinal infections, and they really aren't capable of picking up what we've found in functional medicine to be super critical, which is chronic stealth infections. These are infections that people have for a long time, or imbalances in the bacteria that normally live in the gut. You have good and bad bacteria in there, and the balance can get out of whack, and you can end up having more bad than good, and then you get into some health problems. So this test is really helpful, and all the chemicals in food, especially the glyphosate or Roundup, have wreaked havoc on our intestinal bacteria, because Roundup, in case you didn't know, was first developed as an antibiotic. Most people know that antibiotics harm the balance of bacteria in your gut, but most people don't know that if you're eating non-organic food that almost certainly was grown with Roundup, you're actually eating antibiotics every day. So we're seeing more and more imbalances in the normal bacteria in the gut, and more stealth infections that, when we address them, really help to improve people's health. So what we found for her is we found 4 items out of balance in her normal bacteria flora. So that's an important thing to address. We also found 2 items in the opportunistic bacteria section. And opportunistic bacteria are ones that can be there in low quantity, but they're really not, they're just bad. Within the normal thing, all the bacteria are good when they're in the right balance, but they can become bad if they're too high, or they can cause problems if they're too low. But in this section of opportunistic bacteria, high is just, and we don't want to see anything high here. So this is just bad. So we've got what's called a dysbiosis, an imbalance of the bacteria in the gut that almost certainly is substantially contributing to her overall inflammation and her inflammatory health problems, the hives, the dry skin, and the asthma and the migraines. What's even more exciting to find, because we can do something about it, not because it's exciting to have, is on the third page, she has a parasite infection. And we see this a lot more often than you would think. You know, we're used to thinking, oh, you're only at risk for getting parasites if you go to, you know, Mexico or some other third world country. And if you're going to have them, you're going to be sick right away, and then you get treated and you're fine. But we're finding, you know, having this test available, we're finding more and more people with chronic parasite infections that really are causing a lot of inflammation and damage to the inside of the intestine. That is what puts people at risk for developing food sensitivities. So, and the same is true for the dysbiosis, damages the lining of the intestine. I think what I didn't say at the beginning is this, I talked about stool cultures having to grow bacteria. This GI map is a PCR test, which is polymerase chain reaction test, that actually measures the DNA of each of the individual bugs that it's looking for here. It's exquisitely sensitive and can give us these very reliable numbers. PCR is used throughout science. It's a very well-known technique. It's used in a lot of conventional medical tests as well. But for some reason, the conventional medicine world isn't using this test yet. They're still relying on stool cultures, which rarely show problems. And so people think that their gut health is fine when it really isn't. The last section of this test gives us information about digestion, inflammation within the gut, gluten sensitivity within the gut, and leaky gut, which is a condition that more and more people have, where what are supposed to be tight junctions between the cells that line the intestines. So you're supposed to have really tight connections between the cells, but in leaky gut, those open up, leaving space, like between my fingers, for toxins to get into the bloodstream, for partially digested food to get into the bloodstream, things that are meant to be kept out of the bloodstream because they're not good for you. And that's how the food sensitivities begin, is because those tight junctions open up and partially digested foods are allowed to get into the bloodstream. The immune system says, whoa, 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 that doesn't belong here. I got to attack it to protect my human. And that's how the food sensitivities begin. So in order to heal the food sensitivities, we also have to address leaky gut. So when we look here, zonulin is the marker for leaky gut. There are many different ways to diagnose leaky gut. Zonulin is one of them. When zonulin is high, you absolutely have leaky gut. Zonulin can be normal and you can still have leaky gut, but that's a topic for another day. Her zonulin is very high. So we know that we have to address leaky gut, and that means getting those irritating foods out. It means treating these infections, and it means using some natural products to help her gut lining to heal. And that's a somewhat long-term project, but we're going to do it, and she's going to feel a whole lot better. So those are the things. We saw a lot. We found a lot on just these 4 basic tests that we're going to address in her protocol. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and talk briefly about her protocol. So we took the results we got here, and this young lady's beginning protocol included removing the foods that she has the yellow, orange, and red reactions to, getting those out of her diet. It involves also, I gave her a list of low histamine foods because of her hives. Not everybody needs to pay attention to that, but if you've got chronic hives, if you avoid high histamine foods, or at least don't eat a lot of them all together at the same time, that will help reduce your hives until your body's been able to heal the underlying cause. We started her on a protocol of nutritional supplements. She had quite a few because of her micronutrient results. And we started her on something very gentle to help get the balance back in the gut. You might be surprised to know that we actually need to wait to treat her parasite infection and her dysbiosis, because although she looks really healthy, her body is really stressed pretty much to the hilt. And when you treat the intestinal infections, it can increase stress before it decreases stress. So we want to make sure that people are in good nutritional status, both from what they're eating and from their micronutrients. And we want to make sure that they have what they need for their liver to detoxify well. So we need to give her some time to bring up the B vitamins and the other things involved in that homocysteine issue, so that we know that her liver is working well, so that when we start to kill off that parasite using natural herbal antimicrobial products, which is what we'll probably use. We could use pharmaceutical, but I really prefer the natural ones because they're equally or sometimes more effective with fewer side effects. Then she'll be able to tolerate that increased stress that happens when first those guys die off and messy. So that's her beginning protocol, and along with it, she got a series of educational videos to better understand the food sensitivities and the supplement needs to help her develop the habit of taking the supplements. One of the things I run into a lot, and you may be thinking yourself, is I really don't want to take a lot of supplements. I don't like swallowing pills. If I see all those things, I'm going to think I'm sick and that's going to depress me. I totally get that. And I'm going to encourage you to switch your mindset about it, because we're not talking about taking a lot of medications. We're talking about taking nutrients that we found your body needs. This is really gold. This is incredibly valuable information. So by taking the nutrients that your body needs, which is what the supplements are, you are loving yourself, taking excellent care of your body so that it can have what it needs to heal. Because the human body is perfectly designed to heal when it has both the raw materials it needs to heal and when it's free from constant attack of toxins, infections, other things causing inflammation, high blood sugar, whatever. So the aim of functional medicine literally is to handle those two things, to make sure you have all the raw materials you need and to reduce how much your body is stressed by different things that keep it from being able to focus on healing. So gets that, and I have lots and lots of tips and tricks for helping you make it easy to develop any and all of the new habits that you may need to develop in order to be successful with your personalized protocol. That's what the beginning of pretty much every program I do with people looks like. We've found a lot of root causes in this case. We don't always find that many, but we always find plenty, even for people who think there's not going to be anything. I have yet to find anyone who doesn't have important root causes of their health issues identified on these tests and for whom the personalized protocol doesn't help. So it's super exciting. I love what I do. I'm really committed to shifting us from a world full of chronic illness to a world full of robust health, because life is too precious to be taken out by illness, to be not enjoying it. My aim is for you to be as healthy as you can possibly be, to enjoy your life as much as you possibly can, and to understand what you need to do that. I mean, health is really an individual responsibility, and it's one that we've taken for granted because up until the last 30, 40, 50 years, we could take it mostly for granted. Our world was a much easier place to be healthy in. And unfortunately, in the 21st century, that's no longer the case. We've got toxins everywhere. We've got Wi-Fi, radiation everywhere. We've got very chaotic, stressful lives, high demand careers with global connectivity, et cetera. We've got food that is depleted of nutrients. We often are eating on the run and making bad food choices. There's so much now that knocks our health off kilter that in order to be healthy, we really have to be prepared to take on the responsibility of making time to learn what it is that we need to be healthy and for instituting those measures as regular habits in our lives. And that's what I love to help people with. It's made all the difference in the world for me, for my kids, and for so many of, or if not all, of my clients to really know what's in their control and be able to take control of it. So I hope this has helped you to either decide that you are ready to jump in and invest in yourself with one of my VIP wellness programs, or if you already made that leap, I hope it's helped you to feel comfortable with what's rapidly coming your way and to get excited about the possibilities that doing your root cause analysis is going to show for you. And in either case, I look forward to working with you, and I wish you the very best.